All right, here we go. Okay. So, I think I'm going to tell you about someone in my life, because, I guess it's important, and, it really, how should we say, provides context, if you like. So, that being the case, let's just begin. I had a friend. His name was Joe. And we'll call him Joe. And Joe was an interesting character. I met him in high school some years back. Back then, he was your classic troublemaker. I can't say I was so far off of that path myself. And Joe was your classic dark new agey type, modern humanism, Satanism, if you like. Follower of the dark arts, if you will. Good guy at heart, though. Had great taste in pants. As did I in those years. Those very same pants have actually made a comeback. Don't expect me to do any sort of insert here or there or any of that nonsense, as I've yet to learn how to edit, so, well, forgive me. Continuing, though, Joe was a good guy at heart, and we'd been through, all sorts of things. Weird things here and there. You could say related to maybe his faith. And, as one does in those, high school times. You go out and you party and all that sort of thing. Well, Joe was a heartier partier, if you'll excuse my rhyme, than yours truly. And it had its occasion to catch up to him. But, well, old Joe, he was a tough sort, and he made it through things. Through hell or high water, if you will. But, the guy, he had a different set of beliefs than myself. But, that's fine. And he taught me a lot of things. And even since then, I could say that I've learned a thing or two myself about things. But we're not talking about me right now. We're talking about Joe. So, we met in high school. And, I did a bit of partying at that time. Wasn't much of a drinker then, and believe it or not, I'm not much of one now. But in high school, I started smoking. Whatever. And I wouldn't say it was ever a bad habit. Just a habit one tends to have, if you will. And, well, as I said a moment ago, My friend Joe, he was a hardier man of the party than myself. And he got into all sorts of things, and a lot more psychotropic things. I can't say that I missed out on that, but that, any of those are stories for another time. As all these things will, in the end, tie together. They are all part and parcel to this puzzle that is myself and my life. And who knows what all there is to see and find. So, I would say it was late in high school that he and I had done a bit of partying, smoking, maybe a touch of drinking, but definitely some mind expanding, and we'd had numerous conversations. Myself at the time, I would say I was of the agnostic bent. Possibly close to the atheistic variety. I was never much of a fedora tipping type. I can't say I really am now. But, well, when you see certain things, and you know certain other things, well, it makes the world a very complicated place. So, in terms of this complication, Joe, he kind of ran with some, you would call them pseudo-gangs. I guess these days they are kind of called just gangs outright, but it is what it is. Kids being kids and times being the times that they are and were. What's one to say? Other than that, times were different, as they oft tend to be. So, Joe was a hardy soul, not just in the, ability to consume, but, tough guy. He could stand up in a fight. I never needed or had need of him to stand up for me, but I'll tell you, he had to stand up for himself a lot because he kind of screwed a lot of people over in his day. Never did me wrong. Always did right by me, as a matter of fact. Was not always what you'd call the best friend, but he was never untrue. He never stole from me. I will admit, though, one thing. He didn't ever repay me for that leisure suit. Oh, well. It was only $37. And, no, 36. I don't want you putting any Kevin Smith memes in my mouth here, especially involving the number 37. Alright, I'm showing my age there, right? Never mind these gray whiskers. They're not gray, they're black and silver. I'll have you know. Anyway. Joe was a good guy, like I've told you, and, well, I've given you enough roundabout. And I know that this is just me kind of rambling, and I just wanted to make a rambly video of me talking with this cool new format, and this neat background music, leveled out nicely, that just kind of sets the mood. I've found a couple pieces. This is an artist, Myuu. This is actually something I've heard elsewhere. It's a Gymnopedie. I would presume that's how it's said. But anyway, I like this format. This is a nice, comfy kind of vibe. I've got my outdoorsy thing here. Just having a nice smoke and a chat with everyone. Telling you about myself and my past. So that's an easy one. So, this Joe, I keep referring to him in the past tense, and that's unfortunate, truly. as he was a good man, and I'm sad to be gone of him. It's a truly unfortunate circumstance, but that, no, that's not another story. That's the story now. There's a lot in the interim, a lot of mistakes, a lot of interesting times. One in particular that I'll save for another time. But one in particular is this. Joe met a young girl when he was in high school. She was, younger than the law in some states would allow. And, well, they stayed together. He actually cared for the girl, and when she came of age, she went kind of crazy and just did her thing. And they separated. That was only 2 years later, by the way, just to kind of clarify there. I don't know the legal state on things here. I think it's only 17. But I'm no law cat, so again, forgive me. But they had a interesting and troubled relationship. He got involved with another girl, and interesting enough in her own right. Much more stable and calm. Probably more healthy for him and all that. I'll have to talk to a friend of mine to get you more about Joe, because he was truly an interesting character, and I can't and won't do him full justice in this one particular sitting. But I'll give you something to go away with. He got back with this girl, I would say in her, I want to say in her early 20s. And they made it work. It was loud and at times a little ugly, but they did it. It wasn't exactly the American dream, but what is these days, you know? It's so hard to have something really dreamy. I know I've got a comfortable life, but I have to work for it, and it's, I could work harder and it could be a lot more comfortable, but the heat is on, the electric is on, and I'm able to take care of the few cat friends I've adopted. If by the skin of my teeth. Well, maybe a little better than that. It'd be nice to have some people friends too, at least around here. But I've got all of you and a couple others who'll see this, and I imagine be interested to see that I am indeed well. So to keep this from going on forever, we'll get back to it as I avoid rambling too much. So Joe and her, they made it work, rough as it might be. They had a large apartment, then another larger apartment, actually. And he ended up getting a job. Oh. What am I doing? I'm skipping too many steps. They had a child. I want to say they got married at the courthouse. Nothing special, nothing fancy, but, you know, something simple and nice. I was not in his life at that time, so I didn't even know to attend. Anyhow, they, as is my case, I fell away for some long time, which is most unfortunate. I have a tendency to just go away for a time from the things and people in my life. I'm trying to be better about that. It doesn't make things easy for me, so, little steps. But back to my friends. They made it work, and I caught up with them again through another of my friends whom I'd caught up with by happenstance. And their child is doing well. They had figured things out, and Joe was just smoking and drinking like your average old school American male. Living a pretty healthy life. He'd gotten a job at a factory, and in doing so, after a time, he'd actually quit smoking. He'd really turned himself around. Made something of his life, was putting back some savings, was, taking care of his young child and his wife. And one day, piece of glass slips. And that's the story. Cut an electrical cord. Hit him. Right there. And that was the story of my friend Joe. I'll have to share another at another time. But I thought that'd be something nice to just share with all of you. A fond memory of what was, in the end, a good friend and a good husband, a good man. And a loss for the world that he's gone now. He was a good story. And by being part of mine, he's made mine better. And with that, I'll leave it. And I'll see you all again soon. There's links down there. All my love.